Hi, Kelly Eckold here. Wanted to update you today on some of the discussions I've had in the last week or so, going around the country talking to customers about the release of our new economic forecasts. I've had the chance to talk to customers in a range of centres. I've been down to Wellington, Tauranga, Hamilton and Auckland to give the overview and to take the temperature of the customer base in terms of how they see the outlook in the year ahead. It would be fair to say that there's been a high degree of interest in the outlook, as reflected in the really solid turnout that we had in all of the meetings. And in particular, there's certainly a lot of interest in this turnaround in the migration outlook and the associated growth in population that we're seeing right now, and the implications this will have for the business environment and also kind of labour market costs. So in terms of the sort of key questions that I got a lot of interesting questions in addition to migration about the outlook in Australia and how that compares to the situation in New Zealand, but also some interesting questions about the outlook in China and the risks that that might confer to the New Zealand economy, particularly given the importance of China to particularly some of our export sectors. In general, I think that I detected that the customer base is cautiously optimistic in the sense that there's still this kind of concern that there is going to be a decline in growth in the year ahead, although also some optimism in the sense that cost pressures that have been really high in the last year or so are going to abate, and also the increase in migration is going to make it easier to find staff. Which has been an important constraint on people's businesses for a while. I think there were some quite important sectoral differences in views that I picked up. In particular, the property sector seemed to be a bit more pessimistic in the sense that, from their perspective, property developers finding it harder to find finance, finding it harder to find projects that they think can deliver an adequate rate of return compared to the relatively high level of interest rates at the moment. There's a high degree of uncertainty there, and I got the sense that everybody is going to be watching the data pretty carefully to see how things pan out. That's what we'll be doing here in Westpac, and we anticipate that that's what our peers in the market and the Reserve Bank should be doing as well. I did take the opportunity to take the temperature of the customer base with respect to their views on the housing market in the year ahead. That was interesting because there's been an increase in discussion in the press about the potential for a bottoming in house prices and some improvement in the months ahead. And from that kind of informal survey, what I saw is that there was a tendency for people to take a more optimistic view than had been the case for most of the last year as house prices have significantly corrected. The optimism, I think, is stronger in the major centres compared to some of the smaller centres, and that perhaps makes sense given that immigration in particular is probably more likely felt now in some of the larger parts of the country as opposed to out there in the regions. So let's see what happens in the time ahead, and I'll update you next week on future developments. Thank you very much.